That's all right. Hey, Steve, we're live here with the VRG VRL at Lime Rock here for the Connecticut Grand Prix. This is Ian Wisman here with the VRG coming at you. I'm also joined here in the booth. In the last couple of weeks here, we've had Steve Focacci joining us. Steve, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this race. I think it's going to be a tough one.
I agree. I spent some time in practice last week playing around. It's very close, very quick, and these GT3 cars, they have quite a bit of muscle here on this Lime Rock course. So looking forward to an exciting race this evening.
Yeah, definitely going to have their work cut out for them. There's not a lot of room to pass, and I mean, it's quick laps, so less than a minute. So in a 40-minute race, they're going to be going around there quite a few times.
Yeah, I've seen some practice times out in my session. I certainly wasn't reaching those times, but we were seeing certainly some 48, 49-second laps, and I heard mention of somebody flirting with 47 seconds. So this will be
it's really impressive with a car like this. I mean, the curbs are, you know, if you hit them gently, they're your friend. But some of them are pretty steep, and you get a little bit too much of them, they'll put the car out of shape. They'll put you right in the grass. And it's just a track with very small room for error. Yeah,
a high consequence track was said quite a few times during practice from those who have raced this here in the real world. Obviously being out there on some much higher horsepower cars here virtually, but I think that still remains true here in iRacing.
Yeah, I turned a few laps this morning and I noticed that iRacing has released a newer model. I'm not sure who did that, but this is a more accurate version to what is currently being run.
Get our graphics going here. We're out here in this practice session this evening. We're going to run an hour of practice from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. We'll have a 20-minute qualifying session followed by a 40-minute race here. Drivers to watch out for this evening's session as we're following along here with young Ian Ditson. Stefan Vappa here, also no stranger whatsoever to Lime Rock. I understand he had his first race in a real car, race car here at Lime Rock. I think we can also expect Darren Treacle to show up here towards the end of practice and really start to turn some quick lap times. So, Steve, I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. Certainly 40 minutes of 44-second or 50-second laps. This is going to get exciting for our drivers.
Yeah, I guess we're going to see, like I said, a lot of laps. But last week we saw the top three drivers really distance himself from the field. So they had to deal with a lot of traffic. And when you have a short lap like this is just going to be that many more times they're going to have to get through cars. It's just that many more opportunities for disaster.
Yeah, and having taken part in the Barber race last week and being part of that traffic, I can promise you I was anxiously watching my rearview mirrors and my relative times. Luckily, I managed to have incidents enough to gap myself from the leaders, so they didn't really have to worry about me. But yes, to your point, Steve, this is going to be a lot of traffic. I think that's going to weigh heavily on the end results here this evening.
Yeah, the tough part is the track like last week we were at Barber, and there's some decent straightaways to get through, and I think at the end we had about a 6 or a 5 second margin between first to third. So you can't exactly afford to spend too much time and pick your spot to pass. I mean, you're gonna have to come up on the cars and you're gonna have to get through them efficiently.
And that's one thing that the grid here has been improving upon. Those that are new to iRacing, still getting their feet into this, is being aware, watching that relative, knowing who's coming through, listening to the radio net during the race, and being gentlemanly about allowing the leaders through as they come through. But not a whole lot of places here to be a gentleman and allow for a safe pass. Certainly you can get all arms and elbows here and get in a bad way quickly. Particularly this downhill, which, if you've never witnessed it in person, is really something to behold.
Yeah, it's a tough corner. I tried it today. It's not quite flat, so you do have to manage it. You want to use all the road. There's the curb, and there's grass off on the exit, which definitely end your day if you get too much of it.
Yeah, keeping your foot in it coming down here and not trying to get too fancy about it. Certainly, you got to work up some courage, even in the virtual world, because you don't want to go off and collect one of those tire walls that we see there. Lovely shot here down the front straight, just underneath the San Posey Bridge.
Yeah, I think so far all of our drivers have done a great job. Even some of the guys who are doing tire racing, they don't have the pace of the guys who've been doing it for a little bit longer. But the biggest struggle, I think, is that maybe they're not using all the road and they're not always telegraphing where they're going to be. I don't think it's for a lack of effort or a lack of trying, but it's just tough sometimes to know which way to pass, or if you're letting someone go, or it's just not always obvious. And this track being tight, not a lot of room to pass. I don't know. I see it. There's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, definitely. It was pointed out to me when we ran this track last season, in the inaugural season of the VRG Virtual Racing League, by my trusted best friend, mechanic brother Scott Buriak. Cars of this capacity run this track with the chicane, which we're currently not doing, and we'll see as they come up the uphill. We'll actually catch air, and I think in the real world, physics and wind may apply here, and these cars may tend to get a bit more flight than we'll actually see tonight. But it would be interesting to see how it will change the dynamic of the race if we were to run the chicane configuration here. As you can see just right there, as Ralph Solomon passes it, it would actually be a right, left, right chicane up the hill there.
Yeah, both layouts offer their unique challenges. The current layout that we're on is just so fast, and you're going to come cresting over that hill, which is blind. You want to use the whole road, but at the same time on the left there's grass, and then there's a wall right there too. So it's not like there's tons of runoff, but you are going to get airborne. So the front tires, at least, are going to come off the ground, and if you got too much wheel into them when they come back down, it can unsettle the car. And then if we ran the chicane version, those are big chicanes, and they can disrupt the car and get you pointing in the wrong direction real quick.
Well, it's a lovely view here at Lime Rock Park as we're following along from the Treacle Insurance blimp, following along here in the VRG Virtual Racing League second season. We were watching Niall McCabe there. Seems like he might have been out on cold tires going on the uphill. And I'll tell you, really got to take your time out on this track as you're getting those tires up to temperature. They are like ice skates. It's frustratingly more noticeable here at Lime Rock than it is at the other tracks, I think, because you're immediately into some twisty bits here.
Yeah, not a lot of room for error. Like even that right there, turn 1 and 2, just carry a little bit too much speed, and you get 2 tires off, and you can't save it. It's going off in the grass. It's going to cost you a lot of time even if you don't catch the wall. I think, you were saying about the tire temperature, because the track is narrow, you can push, but I think it's more about finding your rhythm. So the sooner you can find your rhythm, the sooner you'll get settled down and find a good pace.
So we're out here for an hour of practice with the VRG Virtual Racing League. We're going to bounce around the field a little bit, use a couple of different camera shots. See just how scenic this is here at Lime Rock Park. And then we'll have 20 minutes of qualifying, and then a 40-minute race session. We have Niall McCabe out here in the 909 Audi. Looks like we have 18 racers out thus far. I expect a couple more will join before the end of this practice session. This is Kurt Uzbe's first time out in the BMW. Well, technically second. He was out in practice with it. Seems to be a common choice here in the field this evening. Kurt himself, I believe, is either was or will be very shortly at Lime Rock Park in the real world, running with the I believe it's VSCCA and the Empire event that they're holding there. So we'll get to do some real-world racing here in the near term. He'll be taking out that Chevron, which you see down there in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Very good. For watching us out there on YouTube and Facebook, we greatly appreciate you joining us this evening. We appreciate you if you hit the subscribe button and share with your friends and as many folks spectating as we can. See, we do have a couple of people out there on YouTube.
As I say, hopefully, Corona, we can get it on the downward trend and everybody can get back to the track before the year's over.
We have a report on the Seneca Lake weather over on our YouTube channel. Unusually warm, apparently, at Seneca Lake. In the water, actually. 75 degrees, 6 feet down. Air temperature is 78. There's no breeze. And apparently setting up a spectacular sunset, so we appreciate our viewer Carl Stenquist out there at Seneca Lake near Watkins Glen for chiming in this evening.
Yeah, you can't quite say it, but I do believe the cars are getting the front tires off the ground.
Versions out this evening in the BMW with Tecate livery.
Is that a new livery? I don't remember seeing that one.
I think that one's new for Christian. He was running something a little different in practice. I was following him around quite a bit. We were pretty evenly matched. He was not running this during practice, however.
Half a second in front of the field. Should be tight considering how short the laps are.
Relative newcomer but strong performer Reed Shanbrook joining us again this evening. Reed, one of the few out in the Audi, and it looks like we only have a single Mercedes out. Apparently riding his Virginia Tech and SCCA liveried Audi this evening.
If I remember correctly, Reed had very good pace last week. he had a little bit of trouble. I don't remember if it was a lap car or just a self-inflicted slowdown, but he had the pace, and I want to say he was racing in the top 5 for most of the day.
Feeling of it in the force feedback is pretty interesting. I was experimenting with my wheel, trying to get that dialed in, and had turned up the force feedback, and so I was working my way up. It kind of gets light, but then if you don't have those wheels absolutely straight when you come back down, it's one heck of a yank, and if you're not planted, you're going to find that Jersey barrier real quick.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of trade-off between your practice/qualifying pace, which your race pace is surviving for 40 minutes, and it's going to be, 45 laps or so. It'll be tricky. Yeah, it seems like almost every corner is beneficial just to be pushing the car from the apex to the exit to the grass on the exit. It pays off in lap time, but it's at the risk of a mistake, which could really set you back.
Steve Tenney joining us again from the BMW National Capital Chapter Club out of DC. Thanks again, Steve, for coming over and joining us. And I think that's John Wood there, you had seen blinking out just as he passed Steve. John also runs here with the VRG and vacations over with the BMW NCC during their Thursday night race sessions. Unfortunately, a little bit of a contact there going into one with Ian Ditson and Ralph Solomon. Got Ian all out of sorts there, so I expect he'll reset and head back to the pits.
Yeah, I think it's probably in everyone's best interest to start doing some race simulations, if not for pace, just to be around the other cars and just see where you're going to let people by or how you are going to get by other cars.
Yeah, we've the VRG VRL's been doing that Thursday nights. We run a practice session, as I think you've actually sat in and spectated as the broadcast crew here hones their own game. Running a rather long, just open practice followed by a 15-minute quick race, and a lot of that is to the practice session. You're building up your car awareness, and then obviously during the race, working on our pace laps and our starts, and just generally being responsible racers out there on the track. So certainly room for improvement here, but everybody seems to be taking to it like a duck to water.
I think all these guys having real-world experience that they can rely on a little bit. Plus, also just racing in the real world, you're always trying to improve yourself. Or, that's something you can carry over to sim racing. That'll help your craft here as well.
Ian having another off there. Wonder if perhaps he's testing out a new compounded tire there and finding it to be a bit too slippery. Straight out of the pit lane.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same as it used to be, but I remember the older version of Lime Rock. It felt like there was a bit of banking inside of turn 1 and 2, kind of flattened out as you got around the outside. I didn't notice it. It seemed more consistent this time, on the newer version of Lime Rock here. But the old version, once you kind of slipped up midway, 3/4 way across the track, it was very hard to keep the car on the asphalt once if you were kind of headed that direction.
found there wasn't a whole lot of camber in the track when I was practicing, though I don't really have any experience on the old scan. But just in the uphill was really the only place where you found that the car could really tuck in and take advantage of the camber. Everything else seemed to be pretty flat, bordering on off camber, but that also could be up to my own driver's skill here. So.
Well, that's what's nice about iRacing is that, everybody's got the same exact car. You have the option of changing the setup. Most guys are very happy to share a setup. So, say equipment-wise, we're all very, at least equipment-wise digitally, we're all very similar. Equipment-wise at home, it's a whole other thing. But the biggest difference is the nut behind the wheel, as they say.
Looking at our best lap times here in this practice session. Let's pull up the timing so we know just how much we've got left. About 40 minutes through so far. We've got an hour of practice here. Currently Ian Ditzman on top with a 49.299. Stefan Vappa just behind him. And then Race Series Chairman currently with the best time of a 52. Well, that's last time. Let's go to best times. There we go. That's a little more like it. So we've got some pretty close racing here in this practice session, Steve. So to your point, I think it's going to be close throughout the entire race here, and even further down the pack. We've got pretty decent times here. So if everybody can keep it together on that first lap, because that's always the hardest part, I think we got a really nice race ahead of us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Turn 1 and 2, I think you're going to be tough. They're tough on your own, on cold tires. And then you're going to jam 20 cars in there on cold tires side by side. Everybody, if they can be on their best behavior, it'll be in their benefit.
Get a bit of an idea just what that downhill looks like there in this camera view. Try and pick that up throughout the rest of this evening so you can see what that looks like. It's sure a lot of fun to come over that hill underneath that bridge and down the hill. Someday in the real world. Of course, VRG is scheduled to be headed to Lime Rock Park Labor Day weekend for the Historic Festival, which, assuming that works out, Steve, I think should be a pretty outstanding vintage event if you've not been.
Yeah, I probably should make the trip. I'm terribly far from my northern New Jersey here.
Works out to be a great weekend. Obviously, there's no racing on Sundays at Lime Rock Park, so specifically on that Labor Day race weekend, Sunday is an entire racetrack of all the cars that have shown up to compete, and you can have a nice leisurely walk around observing Ferraris, Bugattis, Alfas, Maseratis, MGs, BMWs, all kinds of things, while enjoying fine cigar and beverage. See how he's doing this evening. Which reminds me, Steve, I have to share with you a link that Dave cooked up so we have some personal talking points on our drivers this evening. Pardon me for a moment.
Really see on the track map how congested all those cars are.
again, thanks to Dave for putting together a little driver information form for us so we could collect some information on our competitors and know a little bit more about them. Dave, first on the list, I think, is he created the form, started racing, well, he's been a member of the SCCA since 2005 and received his competition license in 2006. Currently competes in an 87 BMW E30 325 IS with SCCA ITS, and then the sprint bracket road racing classes. He's a DC region SCCA member and is heavily involved in the iRacing series, which the DC region runs and broadcasts on Sim TV. Gather they just ended their most recent season. And lives and resides in Northern Virginia, works in IT, born and raised in Australia.
I knew that accent wasn't from around here.
He didn't sound like a native American. That's okay. We very much enjoyed Dave's cooperation here, and certainly thank Dave for joining us, racing with us. And if I'm correct, Steve, he's responsible for scaring you up. Is that accurate?
He is. Dave runs the Spec MX5 league that I run in, and he asked for a little bit of help over here, and I volunteered for one race. Somehow I'm still here.
Funny, that sounds just like my story. We'll have to, once again, see about getting ourselves a raise here.
Yeah, we didn't sell those sponsors we were trying for, so maybe next week.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to take the show on the road at some point in the real world. When the VRG gets out on a real live course, maybe dabble a bit in live streaming from the track. Certainly, Steve, if we're ever in your neck of the woods, more than welcome to join us. And
yeah, we'll happy to come check that out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put together a reel. We'll send it off to ESPN or Liberty Media Formula One, see if we can't start globetrotting and covering racing around the globe.
I guess if you can't drive the cars around the globe, it'd be the second best thing, just to follow the circuit around and commentate.
I see Darren Treacle has joined the practice session here and is immediately quick. P6 will have to jump in here and see which livery he's running this evening. Looks like he's got some Bob Sharp Racing livery on there on his Mercedes-Benz. AMG, an interesting choice for Darren this evening, Steve. I don't know that we've seen him. I think he ran that last one as well, did he not?
I don't know. He changes every week. It's hard to keep track.
It does strike me as not that it's, not nimble, but it just kind of has a look of weight. It has a grace to it, but not quite like the Audi or the Ferrari, perhaps.
Yeah, it doesn't have that sports car feel of the other cars, but with the BOP, they're all very close, and I don't think anybody's at a disadvantage for the car that they're choosing. You can almost see a little bit of air underneath that car there. Graphic we're debuting?
Not necessarily debuting. I have used it before, but as you can see, it's glacially slow. And here at Lime Rock, I think it takes longer for the crawler to show the entire field than it does to complete a lap. So I've got to, in my spare time, speed up the crawl so it finishes sooner than later.
As I say that by the time it gets to the end, the information may be quite a bit old.
Let's see if we can't double time this. Speed it up a little bit. No, that's quicker.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, still not going to finish before they complete a lap, so. We'll bring that one back later once the graphics department has had a chance to tweak it a little bit. So 50 minutes of this hour-long practice session. There will be a 20-minute qualifying session to follow, and then a 40-minute race here at the VRG Virtual Racing League. We're coming at you from Lime Rock Park. This is the Connecticut Grand Prix. This is your broadcaster in Lisbon, joined as always by Steve Ficacci. Steve, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody's getting into race mode here.
Yeah, we've got 8 cars within a second of the fast time.
I know I'm still learning handle iRacing here in the broadcast booth all this time. When I competed, specifically when I competed last week at Barber, I didn't turn off the change tires and refuel by default option the first time I wrecked. So the 2-minute penalty for the tow back to the pit, and then 2 minutes and change for the tires and gas. Well, yeah, my evening, but lesson learned.
Not to get too technical, but there's a way to change that in your settings ahead of time so that it always is set that way.
Well, Steve, you know what we might do here is set up a stream where we maybe do some iRacing how-tos for the beginner. I expect that we're going to be doing this for a little while.
Yeah, happy to do that. There's probably a lot of little things that after you're on the service for a while you don't even think about, but would be very helpful to a beginner.
I'm sure there's a number of folks who've watched us over the last season and into the second season here that are thinking about coming out and joining us at the Virtual Racing League. Certainly would love to have you. I know the mailing list group for the VRL is very active. Lots of good discussion and training and teaching. And certainly if we put together a couple of how-to videos, I'm sure they would be some of our most watched. Because there is a lot to all this, for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that you take for granted in the real world. That when you come into the sim, you just got to learn a different way of doing it.
Nice shot down pit lane there as Stefan Vappa comes in. And I guess he's going to practice for a race load here. Perhaps trying to gap the field, find some clear space and go out and set a quick time. As we watch the track map here and we see Darren Treacle is currently second quickest in this session roll by, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of folks roll out of the paddock and try and set a couple of quick laps here. Or maybe just take a breather before we get into qualifying and race.
Yeah, I mean, they do have, was it 15 or 20-minute qualifying? I mean, either way, they have enough time to do what they have to do. Probably is smart to take a little break, maybe a pit stop. And, you know, once you get done with qualifying, we jump right into the race, so it's an hour of seat time. Maybe stretch a little bit.
Nice shot going away over the hill there. In the championship points here. Let's see if I can pull up that graphic here in just a little bit. Sorry about that, Ralph. Ralph left the camera on you. Update my timing and scoring points here. Wrapping up here this hour-long practice session. So if you don't mind, Steve, I'm going to toil for a moment here, update the point standings so we can see where we are with the championship.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just trying to straighten out this Excel so I can read the bio in the middle. Impressive to see how the racers improve every week. See how close the times are today compared to a few weeks ago. It's a lot of work to get to those times.
It definitely is. Obviously, some people putting in some seat time here.
Set the fast time of the session, lowered it to a 48.7.
Times from the newcomer here. I gather Reed's not inexperienced to iRacing, but he has been blisteringly quick since he joined the VRL.
Minutes left to practice. He's like to be qualifying fuel, so that's probably where you can expect him to be in a few minutes here.
Almost done updating the points.
And that's the end of practice.
That will be the end of practice. As you can see here, we did an hour of practice and we got a 20-minute qualifying session. Very quick out of the pits for our competitors here. Gonna warm up those tires, find some clean air, and start setting some quick qualifying times. We'll bring up the timing tower once it's available to us.
Yeah, I feel like typically you just want to get a good clean lap in. That's representative of your pace. But a track like this is just so short, and everybody has the ability to turn a fast time. You know, if you don't go for it, really set a fast lap, it's going to cost you a few spots on the starting grid. If I were in this section, I would probably fill the car up with enough fuel for about 10 minutes. Then after those 10 minutes, come in, get fresh tires, and give it another go.
So you can take a look as this comes together. Looks like Darren might have had a bit of a shunt back there. I can see some smoke. He's going to have to take that one back to the pits and get it rebuilt.
Lap, everybody's still probably wearing tires. I wouldn't expect anybody to be really fast until the next lap. Graphic on the bottom with the sector times. Purple is fastest overall. Green is personal best, I believe.
Yes.
And yellow is just, I guess it's just letting you know where you are on the lap.
We'll take a lap around here with Stefan Vappa so we can see what Lime Rock looks like from his point of view. Stefan currently quickest in this qualifying session.
Yeah, I think before this is over, we're going to see several drivers in the 48s.
Start driving the Ferrari. I purchased it after struggling with the BMW for a bit and the McLaren, and it's amazing just how smooth of a car it is to drive. I would say probably one of the better ones to start with, that the AMG.
Yeah, I haven't driven it in a bit, but I used to run a series, it was a spec series where everyone ran the Ferrari GT3, and it was a very flat and stable car. The only downside I saw to it was that it really wasn't very curb friendly, which is the opposite of the Mercedes. The Mercedes could take a pounding in those curbs, and it's always very stable.
A lot of quick cuts here with the cameras, as this track is just not long enough for too terribly many long shots like we see here down the front straight.
Reed Shannerbrook has jumped to the top. top driver's only a few hundredths apart.
It's going to be tough to find some space out there in this qualifying session, Steve, as you pointed out. Lots of cars running close together here. We'll pull up our track map. You can see there's a couple of tight clusters, so...
Yeah, you want to try to give yourself a little space in front of you to start that lap, but there's kind of a wild card is where the pit lane exit is. It dumps you right into turn 1 at the apex, and there's not much you can do if somebody pulls out in front of you.
Ian and Darren Treacle getting a bit racy there into turn 1. I'm sure Darren trying to benefit from a bit of a draft there. To reach Shannonbrook.
Top 4 are about a quarter second apart, and then we have a large gap, 2 fifths on back. Do expect that to close up quite a bit before the session's over.
Looks like that was Clark Wortham there getting wide coming down the west bend.
Yeah, that's something else you have to be aware of at this track. It seems like anybody who wrecks or has an issue seems to end up back on the track. You know, there's not a lot of runoff. Maybe between 3 and 4, there's somewhere to go. But after that, you know, you're going to bounce off the wall and probably come back into the path of someone.
About halfway through our 20-minute qualifying session here. Currently Reed Shanabrook out on top there. Just behind by Ian Didson, Stefan Vappa, Darren Treacle. Jim Karamanis looks like he's putting some pace in, working his way up the ladder.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think every race I've been to with Darren Treacle has been on the front row. I played it today.
I think you're right. I do know at least last week, Darren anticipating, I think, some hijinks in the first lap, started from the pit lane, which was, I think, in retrospect, a wise decision.
Reed's lowered his fast time to 48.6. A little bit of a gap between him and the second place car. Yeah, I think if you're a faster car, you definitely want to be able to find a gap. I think if you're maybe somebody who's not quite at the pace of the front guys, it could do you some good to just get behind a fast car and just, try to follow their tracks. You may not actually learn anything, but just subconsciously, I find sometimes you follow a faster car, and without trying too hard, you find your lap time dropping.
Yeah, it certainly gives you some frame of reference as to where you can actually put the car. Back in the old days of Gran Turismo and following the Ghost car around, certainly helps you to get a feel for just where you can stick it, because you're hesitant necessarily to try it on your own. You fear you might have it off. Certainly learn where the quick cars are lifting and or braking.
Even though the track's small and tight, there's still going to be a little bit of a toe. Cars are under a 50-second lap. Quick.
It's amazingly hard to find that extra tenth when you need it.
As important as qualifying is, I think the first lap and not putting yourself out of the race too early is going to be key. If you just put two tires in the grass and you fall back, it's going to be very hard to drive through all these cars, especially when they're all so close in pace. Surely has something figured out today. You might not have noticed, but he actually set another fast time, which is almost identical to his last one. So he's consistently able to go fast today. That'll come in handy during this race.
For sure. I knew Reed was quick. I'm surprised at the pace he has this evening. He did not join us for the practice section, so this is a bit of an unknown here. I know Ian Ditson here was talking about having some very low 48-second lap times, but I think he's struggling to find that here in this qualifying session, so I'm sure he's a little frustrated with that one. But yeah, certainly kudos to Reed for keeping it going.
Yeah, I mean, he could have been running low 48s in the other session, and sometimes, you know, track temp varies a little bit. Track temp can have a great effect on the lap times in iRacing. You know, a little bit, you know, 10-degree cooler track could be a half a second.
Speaking of weather. Partly cloudy, 73% humidity, track temperature 95 degrees. The sun's peeking back out here.
Yeah, so overall grip can change depending on the track temperature, and if you know the sun comes in and out, that can change it. But I noticed that there's a pretty high mile-an-hour wind, which I think I saw was 12. That will affect your practice if you practice into a headwind. That's going to affect certain corners differently, and where you brake and where you can get on the gas. That can throw you a curveball.
Left here in this qualifying session. Reed Shanbrook still out on top. Ian Ditson trying to make strides. Doesn't look like he's finding the time that he needs. Same with Stefan Vappa and Darren Treacle. Darren surprisingly off pace this evening.
Yeah, it's only a few tenths. It's not like he's a mile back, but you know the track's so short a little bit. It's a big difference here. You know, like I said, that first lap's going to be important. And these front guys are going to run like crazy. Probably try to build a little bit of a gap before they start pitching lap cars. I don't think it'll take long. Treacle lowered his best time just a teeny bit, not enough to improve his position.
Follow Ian around as we wrap up this qualifying session, see if we can bring it to Reed in the closing minutes. Smooth on his inputs, which is a big reason why he's fast. The last few seconds there, Dave Fitzgerald jumped up to fourth. Apparently Ian hit the eject button there, or that was the wall. Anyways, that's the end of our 20-minute qualifying session there. Everybody's going to go back to the pits, change their tires, set their fuels, and come out for the race. Checkered flag is waving there. Let's pull up our current championship standings and see if the points are accurate here. We get an idea of where everybody stands. Apparently, let's see. Back to the top of the... There we go. Have to update our graphics just a little bit so we can see where everybody's from. We see Ian and Darren are tied at the top of the championship with 211 points, followed in third place by Stefan Vappa, Bob Lang, and John Wood rounding out the top 5.
Super close up top. Are ties determined by wins?
I do believe that's the case, or overall finishing position. Would have to double check that one. We moved to a new point scheme here for the second season. We're running more of an oval style, so first place gets 44 points, down by 1 through the rest of the finishing grid there. Let's jump up here to the blimp cam, Treacle Insurance blimp, as we pull up our grid for this evening's race. Whoop. And here's how qualifying worked out for the Connecticut Grand Prix at Lime Rock Park, the VRG Virtual Racing League. Qualifying in pole position here, Reed Shannabrook coming out of nowhere, taking that pole position. He's been quick. We didn't necessarily expect him to have the pole. Second place is Ian Ditson. He tried hard through qualifying but couldn't make it. Stefan Vappa in third, Dave Fitzgerald in fourth, Darren Treacle in fifth. Looking for a strong race from Darren here, coming out of fifth place. Jim Caramanus in sixth, Todd Angel seventh, Ralph Padgington P8. The sister car to Jim Caramanus in the ELB Racing Ferrari camp. Clark Orstrom there in 9th place, John Wood in 10th, Bob Lang in 11th, Christian Bergens in 12th place. Kurt Ousbay 13th, Niall McCabe in 14th, Mac McCormick in 15th, Paul Bova 16th, Ralph Solomon there in 17th place, Matthew Barber 18th, Steve Tenney 19th, Dave Curtis, late addition there to that qualifying session just before the end in 20th, and Eric Russell back in 21st place. We'll jump on board here as this pace lap rolls out in just a bit. So Steve, I think this evening, like you said, it's going to be a lot of close racing, a lot of cars clustered tightly together here on course. Going to be some quick laps. Probably going to get a little hairy here. I think this is going to be a good one. I'm certainly excited to be here watching along with you.
Yeah, I think this first lap is going to be exciting. I think everybody should try to be on their best behavior and just keep the car pointing in the right direction. Don't hit another car, and it'll do themselves the best service. But it's tight. I mean, just mistakes can happen, and a little mistake can cost you a lot, which is going to be tough. So we saw how close the field was there in qualifying. It's going to be hard to work your way back through if you do make a mistake. So the first 1 or 2 laps, you just need to tiptoe, but you can't go slow because you're going to get passed up if you do.
Looks like we've got a record crowd out here at Lime Rock Park. Looks like a lovely day.
Everybody's got to remember you got cold tires right now, so when you go bound to turn 1, the car's not going to stop as well. It's not going to turn.
Nice and tidy on this formation lap. Get down over the hill. Let's make the pace car pull off here very shortly.
Green flag, green flag.
The green flag is out, and we are off. Reed Shannabrook pole position. Ian Ditson looks like he pips him from the outside. We're going to go close and hard here into turn 1. Let's hope we make it through cleanly. Dave Fitzgerald on the outside. Ian Ditson taking the lead through turn 1. Reed Shannabrook able to stay behind in second position. Dave Fitzgerald, Stefan Vappa. Darren Treacle back there in 5th place, staying close.
Great job by those front two cars. It says a bit of a gap. Might have been an issue back there.
It's making some space. Stefan on some cold tires. Looks like he got out of control coming up over the crest of the hill there. They're down the hill to complete lap 1 here. Ian Ditson leading this. Stefan looked like he was able to recover rather quickly. I expect he's a little disappointed in that, but he'll fight his way back up to the top. Darren Treacle back here in 4th place.
These GT3 machines sure look great. Car on the wall hard.
More trouble back there coming off the downhill. Unfortunate. Probably suffered a little bit of damage to that little shunt there in the first lap and then just got off. We'll maybe jump back and take a look at that when we have an opportunity.
Yeah, before he put it in the wall there was damage on every side, so the first lap was a bit rough for him.
Jump on car with Reed. Audis leading the field here at Lime Rock, Connecticut Grand Prix with the Vintage Race Group Virtual Racing League. This is Ian Wisdom with the VRG, joined up here in the broadcast booth with Steve Picacci. An exciting race here as we head down the San Jose straight into turn 1. Darren Treacle going purple.
Nearly all the front runners are around 49.2. A little bit slower than their qualifying pace, but that's expected. They're full of fuel now. Oh, hang on to it, Dave.
A little squirrely there. They're unable to capitalize, move up to P3. With Reed and Ian sparring up here, this might be Darren's opportunity to climb his way up to the top.
But based on his qualifying pace, Reed is a bit faster than everyone else, so better hope he stays behind Ian or race could be over quick. It also looks like we have a lap car coming up on us already. Parked on the wall there.
Looks like he did go off track. This is Dave Fitzgerald here fighting with Darren Treacle to take 2nd place. We're going to jump back here and see what happened to Reed.
Yeah, look like he made a sudden stop on the wall. Oh, contact.
A little bit of contact there with Darren as they're coming down the downhill. Put Reed into the wall. Unfortunate there for Reed.
You're just going so fast there, and that grass is like ice. There's nowhere to save that.
No, not at all.
No, he's definitely going to be disappointed with that, with the pace he showed in practice and qualifying.
picking up John Wood.
I laughed Darren Treacle. Darren Treacle, I believe, just ran faster than he ran in qualifying.
Right there, Steve, looking at the timing. That's accurate.
BMWs clumped together.
Oh, it's a nice angle on them. John able to recover nicely and capitalize. That was unfortunate. John got loose coming up over the hill, saves it, and then manages to avoid a bit of an entanglement of the BMWs there. I'm sure Munich's not going to be happy. Let's see if we can go back and find out what happened there. Jumping back to this pass over John Wood. Still gets loose as he comes up over the crest of the hill and has to go wide right. Probably anticipated. Kurt Uzbey behind there, so we'll have to make sure if we get John in the booth after the race if he remembers that one.
Yeah, they lost a few seconds, but they're all still in the battle there, so considering how bad it could have been, they got off lightly.
Giving chase to John Wood down the front straight.
He's close. Looks like he can make a move here.
Sticks his nose out. Didn't have it or thought better of it.
Yeah, he may have just been playing a little fear.
Shot on the outside. I don't know that he's got that. He's certainly reeled in Ian. I think the traffic has probably slowed Ian down just a little bit. Of course, both of them are going to have to navigate through this to succeed.
Yeah, just the nature of this track, it seems to go left and right. There's not a lot of room for two cars to get by a lapper at the same time, so... Oh! He got together with the lap car, yeah.
Yeah.
Top three are separated less than 3 seconds. Dave Fitzgerald hanging on the back.
Back to that pass there, see if we can see what happened to Ian. Looks like he tries to go inside just before the right end of the uphill. Unfortunately, just makes a little bit of contact and Darren's able to squeak by.
Yeah, from that angle it's hard to tell, but he had such a shallow entry he couldn't hold the apex. Say that I'm shocked by Darren's pace, but he's running times faster than qualifying. With a full fuel load, he should definitely be slower. Up to a half a second, I would say. But here he is, just taking off several laps faster than he was able to qualify at.
I'm curious to know just how light of a fuel load he went with. I know he tends to roll the dice on this and get just enough in the tank to cross start finish before it pops and gives up.
Dave's going to make a move on Ian. Lap traffic, let's see how this helps.
Looks like that's Ian, then Todd Angel, then Darren, Christian Bergen moving out of the way. Here's the Lewis come through. Dave almost painted Ian's back porch red.
Save it, Dave! Great job by Dave not killing that car.
Gently back on the track there, Dave. Through West Bend to the downhill.
Lost a lot of time.
Gonna have to hand it to Dave here, though. That was a heck of a recovery there. Could have very easily been that. Not recovered.
Yeah, great job.
Gently back on the track there. Last thing you want to do is jerk the wheel because that's just going to end poorly for you.
It's hard to show that patience when he sees the lead right in front of him just slipping away.
2 seconds back now from second place Ian Nixon. I expect he'll be back. Work our way down the field here a little bit. Jim Karamanis currently running P7. I think that's Dave Curtis ahead of him.
Yeah, that's for position. That's for 6th place. Jim's car is not looking great, though. I have to imagine he's probably fighting it a bit with that much damage.
Curtis joined very late in the qualifying session, started from the very back of the grid, has climbed his way up 14 positions, currently running P6, so excellent effort there by Dave.
Yeah, his car looks very clean, so he didn't use his car up getting through the traffic.
Obviously has recovered from his shunt earlier in the race. We're going to jump up here to Clark Borstrom and John Wood, who've been running pretty close as well. Bounce back and forth between these two races on track.
Yeah, I feel like at a lot of tracks you can use the lap cars to your advantage, but here they're just so tight. I don't know if the second car can capitalize on a mistake by the lead car. It's just there's nowhere to go, as you saw with Dave Fitzgerald's error. Close. They hit.
Unfortunate. Back on track, maintain positions. Very gentlemanly there.
Yeah, looks like he waited for him to get his car straightened out.
Take a look at that because the cameraman was in the process of pushing a button just as that happened. Clark had the run on the inside. John looked to have gotten a bit loose and was coming back across.
Yeah, some people treat that corner such as it has like a double apex, and they drift up in the middle, and that looks maybe what happened. They just came together. Sportsmen like driving to wait. You know, taking somebody out on your mistake isn't always the way you want to pass someone. I tell you that weight though sure let the cars behind catch up. Now we have a 4-car battle.
Impressed with Stefan's patience here, working his way back up through. He's got quite a bit of distance and time to make up on the race leaders, but
yeah, I don't expect him to get to the front, but if he's patient and, you know, based on his practice and his qualifying speed, he could definitely pass many of these cars in front of him. I believe it looks like when he stopped early on, maybe he got his car repaired, because it looks clean. I believe it was pretty banged up earlier, so his car should be handling good. He should have the pace that he's had all along.
picks up P7 there from Jim Karamanis. Kudos to Stefan Fab's team for putting that Ferrari back together so quickly. Getting a bit of distance here on Clark. They work their way around Mac McCormick there. Steve almost works out to be like multi-class racing here just a little bit with the front of the pack being as quick as they are, but you get this nice group running in the middle here where everybody's pretty close and skill sets are very similar, and obviously some pretty white-knuckle racing taking place right here.
Yeah, this is great racing here. Close. Oh, another more contact.
Unfortunately, that looked like Clark and perhaps Dave Curtis there coming together into one. Yeah, Dave's getting back on track there.
I guess the benefit of having 5 cars battling for position is when 2 fall out, you still have 3. Just like that, Matt is up into the top 5. I was going to try him around the outside. And he did it. That's a hell of a move.
Taking advantage of John braking extra hard there on the inside of 1, able to get around him. Jump up to our race leader here, Darren Treacle.
Yeah, he's put a few seconds on the cars behind him now. Oh, looks like we just had a crash, John Wood. And he took out Jim Karamanis in his spin. There you go, we just passed him. Yeah, a little bit too much, a little too much exit there.
Both those cars are going back to the pits.
Just got a note from the crew chief app. The race is halfway over. That was the halfway point. I don't know if you ever used it, but it's really a wonderful app. You can talk to it and everything.
I had started to experiment with it, and I am amazed at how crew chief is able to give point buys and call out the traffic and tell you which way to go and all that good stuff. I, for a moment there, thought he was getting confused because there were two Ians out on track, and perhaps it was only parsing first names. So, for a moment there, I think he was giving me Ian Ditson's updates.
Oh, yeah.
Could be me, though. I rebuilt that race rig, so maybe that fixed the crew chief. But yeah, it's pretty amazing how that all works, especially that you can talk to him.
Well, I do a lot of yelling at him. Sometimes he doesn't always understand me, so it makes me yell more. It probably makes him understand me less. But it gives a very authentic race feel when that happens. Dave Fitzgerald is getting close to Ian Ditson within half a second. Yeah, the last few laps, Ian's been falling back closer to Dave. I don't know if he's pushing too hard, or maybe picking up a little bit of damage. The car looks good.
That Audi seems to be a bit of a tank. I've seen it take some shunts and come away with very little damage. I think we discussed this at a previous race.
Yep.
And it still stays pretty quick.
I do wonder maybe if you use up his tires a bit. These cars, they have ABS. You can use the front tires and drastically affect the way the car turns in. Oh, Ian! Ian's in the wall hard.
Looks like Mac McCormick got a little caught up there as they were coming by, and a bit of a pinball effect there. We'll jump back to that and see exactly what transpired. So just ahead there, yeah, Ian got into Mac, and then Clark collected Mac.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit confusing because when Ian tried to pass on the outside and then Dave was going towards the inside, so I'm not sure the lap car knew where to go exactly. Ian's still rolling along. He's only about 2.5 seconds behind Dave, so while it wasn't great, it's could have been a lot worse. Stefan Pappas stuck in the fourth one, so he's trying to make the best of his day.
Spread out on the official intervals here, and across the course it's consistently traffic heavy. Looks like Mac's going to try and limp that Mercedes or BMW back to the pits and maybe get a quick repair rather than having to tow it and sit for 2 minutes.
It's hard to tell what it used to be. Yeah, I think it was a BMW. I'm not sure limping it back is the smartest thing to do with the other cars on the track. Yeah, I mean, we knew the track was going to be tough to pass, tough to negotiate the lap traffic. That's been disappointed.
We'll take the opportunity here while things are rather spaced out to work our way up through the rest of the field.
And a 488 Ferrari GT3.
residing now down in Florida, though he previously lived up in Connecticut. Looks like he's spent quite a bit of time racing throughout the years. In fact, taking a first place finish at the 2006 Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix and a 1959 Turner Mark I. I'd be curious to see exactly which car that was. I know Todd ran a very beautiful green Turner, and we can't paint out of our shop these days a yellow Turner 950S, which Paul did himself race for a little while. We have crowd favorite Niall McCabe, originally hailing from Ireland, out there in the 909 Audi. I think Niall will tell you he's not the quickest guy out there, but he sure has a heck of a lot of fun every night coming out and racing online with these guys.
Yeah, his car looks pretty clean, so either he's been staying consistent, staying away from the other cars, or maybe he's had a quick repair. It's hard to tell. Matthew Barber in 17th place, driving the Mercedes.
Seem to have lost Matthew there for a moment. Matthew hailing from Reading, Pennsylvania.
That might be him in the pits.
Yep, I think you're right. Jim Karamanis also, I think, in the pits getting some work done on his car. Mac McCormick has gotten his BMW repaired and is back out there. 3 laps down, but still out there racing. Christian Bergen's out in his Scotty-sponsored BMW. Beer themes here on the BMWs. Christian running a Warsteiner liveried E30 M3 in the real world. Very pretty car.
I think this one's my favorite. It stands out. It
does.
And it's unique, you know. It just doesn't, you know, I don't confuse this with any other cars on the track.
You see race leader there, Darren Treagle, just out of frame. Ralph Solomon running here with Niall McCabe. Ralph out in the Ferrari this evening. Lime Rock, a favorite track of Ralph's. He has tackled this course numerous times in the Elva Formula Junior you see there in the corner. I expect this is a horse of a different color.
Yeah, I'd be curious what his opinion is on the digital version of the track, and if it, how well it correlates with what he does in real life. And then when he goes back into the real world, if he learned anything from the sim.
I will certainly have my own observations. I'll pass along to you, Steve, because I'll be going from driving a I don't know how many 100 horsepower supercar in iRacing to my lovely 1961 Austin Mini, which is going to have, you know, 1/25th the power and 1/1000th the handling and suspension and braking.
Well, you don't have the huge power of these cars, but I still think they're going to be probably a little less aggressive on the curbs and things like that. You know, you can experiment in the sim, you know, things you may not do in the real world, so.
Bob Lang currently in the pits. Steve Tenney, unfortunately, Cameron's car. So get out of the way there, Steve, as car caution comes through. Ralph Badgington here, part of the ELB racing team, the extremely low budget. Campaigning 2 Ferraris this evening at Lime Rock Park.
Nothing says low budget like 2 Ferraris.
Christian having a bit of an off there. Todd Angel, hailing from Mount Airy, Maryland. Spent the early 90s karting with his father. Spectating at VIR for a few years. Looks like he's been running HPDEs the last several years in a 1989 11. Clark Orstrom just ahead.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a rough day, hasn't he?
Yes. Picking up with John Wood here. Running P6, had a couple of shunts earlier, as we can see by the damage on his car, but he's managing to stick with it. Hopefully keep it clean for the rest of the race here. Sure, John Wood would appreciate us giving a shout out to the fellow Dipasport team back home, enjoying a few frosty double IPAs while John's out here earning a paycheck.
Yeah, he's in sixth. Not a bad day. I mean, it looks like there was some activity, in that group of cars before. I don't think anybody got through it unscathed. So to still be running in the front half of the field, a great spot.
Catching back up with our race leaders now. Stefan Vappa up to 4th place after climbing all the way back up through the grid. He's making time. I think the last time we checked in on him, he was 25 or more seconds behind 3rd place.
Yeah,
Didson.
I believe something happened to Ian, because Ian was about a second and a half behind Dave Fitzgerald, and now he's about 12, which is also allowed Stefan Vappa to be closer to Ian. So there must have been some sort of issue. It hasn't slowed him down, so it's not like he's super damaged, but maybe he had a spin or something like that. That caused him to lose a large chunk of time.
Now that you mention that, looking back through our replays, looks like he did have an off. Unfortunately, it's a little too far after. Just ran off there and won.
Yeah, the way he was backing out there, almost maybe had a little bit too much rear brake entering the corner. Great day for Dave Fitzgerald, 2nd place.
Yeah, excellent drive from Dave.
I think that'll be his best finish of the season if that's where he can stay.
Looks like Max high-sided to coming on the downhill there. Hopefully he keeps it there as the rest of the field passes by.
Yeah, I don't believe anybody coming into the bridge would see him till it's too late.
Looks like we lost Darren there. Hopefully his internet connection comes back to life.
Quite surprised when we have 3 cars out of the race. I thought just being such a tough track, we would have a little bit more than that. These guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, excellent point, Steve. Not that you necessarily expect there to be a crash derby, but given how tight this course is, certainly car-on-car contact was going to happen, or car-on-wall contact.
Yeah, these cars aren't easy to drive, and just the nature of it. Just you're going to be using all of the roads, as you're going to get close to the grass. And if you just take a little bit too much, you end up with the wall, or just saw before, like just catching too close to the cars in the corners. You're not really sure which way to go, but you can't afford to lose the time. So it just creates a tough situation where I think the guys today have done a great job. We've seen some issues, but they're going to happen. They can't be avoided. Darren may have a little bit of an issue. Dave cut a few seconds out of the last lap. I'm not sure if that happened.
Jump on board here with Darren. See if he's nursing a potentially light fuel load.
Until the end of the straightaway there.
Just about 3 minutes remaining in this 40-minute race session. This is Ian Wisman with the VRG Virtual Racing League, joined by Steve Ficacci in the broadcast booth. Coming at you from Lime Rock Park for the Connecticut Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's just so hard to predict how much fuel you're going to need. It's a 40-minute race. You try to count the laps and figure out where you're going to be. But then you have things like traffic and just, racing happens. You don't want to carry that extra fuel. I mean, it sounds like an easy decision to just put a little bit more in, but every gallon you put in is going to be a little bit of time that you're never going to get back. I hope it's an error, but it said Ian Ditson was out. Oh no, he's back. Okay.
Looks like John Wood heading off and had to head to the pits.
Yeah, it's a shame this late in the race. So close to the finish.
Take a look here and see what happened with John. That's where he went off. Looks like he got to the inside of the downhill and then came back across and had an unfortunate collision with Niall McCabe there. I'm sure John's none too happy with that.
At this point, Darren can afford to be very patient in getting past these cars.
Seems like there's a bit of a wrinkle in Darren's nose there.
Yeah, not sure where you picked that up. As I said earlier, I knew there was a lap where he lost quite a few seconds, so maybe he had a mishap with another car.
Checker flag is out, and Darren Treacle's going to take the race win here at the Connecticut Grand Prix, Lime Rock Park. Excellent drive there by Darren Treacle.
Sounds crazy to say, but I almost want to say he's a surprise winner.
I think that's an accurate statement. Dave Fitzgerald with an excellent drive himself. Stefan Vappa coming along here. after falling all the way out of the pack due to a first lap incident. Fights his
Yeah, I
way
think
all
he's
the way
gonna
back.
have to be pleased with this.
Yeah, definitely. Race will wrap up rather quickly here. We're pretty tightly grouped together as everybody crosses the finish line. Checkered flag is out for everybody. Expect Dave's going to take a proper cool down lap here. Not sure if we'll see him doing donuts on the front straight, but maybe. He's going to bring it back home and drive it right back on the trailer. I'm sure the team's appreciative of that one.
Yeah, I think Reed will obviously be disappointed today. He had so much pace in practice and qualifying, and just never got going. But the other guys in the front, I mean, they finished right where they started. In the top 5 cars, with the exception of Reed, all finished in the top 5, and they have to be happy with that. I mean, it's just a tough place to get around and pass cars, and keep the car clean.
I agree with you there, Steve. Let's see. We're going to look over here to the interview booth and see which of our drivers here from this evening we're going to be able to pull in for a post-race interview. And if I can get our points all set, I think we're good here. We can take a look at our standings after this event. Pull up our championship here. Jump back up to the top. We can see here Darren Treacle now out on top, 2 points ahead of second place Ian Ditson. Stefan Vappa there in third place, 234 points. John Wood, 223. Bob Lang with 222. So it's, within a race win here and a bit of trouble for the others. And this is a pretty close championship we've got going on here.
Yeah, it's very close.
So if you'll pardon me here in the spectating audience out there at YouTube and Facebook land, we're going to cut for a moment, bring everybody into the interview booth, and we'll be right back with our race winners. All right, and this is Ian Wisman and Steve Ficacci here in the broadcast booth, here finishing up the Connecticut Grand Prix at Lime Rock Park. We have our race winners up here in the broadcast booth. Let me just pull up our graphics here so we're looking at the overall finishing results. We'll hide those points, bring up the finishing, and we'll do that later. There we go. That's not going to work. Anyways, gentlemen, excellent race this evening. It looked to be pretty congested out there. Darren, I would say, and Steve made this statement just before we got in here, weren't necessarily expecting you to take a race win this evening. How was it out there for you?
Well, I'm not going to say that I disagree with you. Man, I tell you, it was tough. At the start, me and Jim came together a little bit, hargy-bargy, if you will, because everybody was jockeying for a position. Then later in that same lap, going up the hill, Stefan came across in front of me. I tried to slow down, but I nudged him a little bit. Then later in the race, Reed went off just before the downhill. I went to the inside, and the car pushed out, so that knocked him off. I think that's about all I took out for that race. Other than that, it was good.
Well, we definitely enjoyed sitting up here watching the race, and Stefan just joined us here in the broadcast booth. Stefan, you had a heck of a fight to climb your all the way back up to P4 this evening. How was that drive for you?
That was actually a lot of fun. I wish I hadn't screwed up the first lap so badly, because the rest of the race was a hoot. Had a lot of close calls, and there were some incidents with people kind of spinning in front of me, but it was enjoyable, and I drove well for the rest of the race. I was just listening to whatever was going on up front and hoping somebody was going to make a big one, but I guess nobody did.
Yeah, it was very close racing up the top of the grid there. Dave, excellent drive from you this evening. We were having a great time watching you and Ian throughout the majority of that race. You were chasing Darren there for a little bit, but then fell behind. How was your race this evening here at Lime Rock?
Well, it turned out much better than I expected. I wasn't. I was having trouble with qualifying. I was having a little bit of a hardware issue. My VR headset wasn't locking in. It was sort of wobbling all over the place. So with about 10 minutes to go, I rebooted and I came back in. And the last lap, I was able to squeak in a fourth place grid position, which I felt a lot better about just because of this type of track. And just being up front might be a little easier for the first couple of laps anyway. But yeah, I made a good start. I made up at least one position, and then there was a bit of a Donnybrook between me and Ian, and Darren checked out a little bit. Darren was behind me, but he eventually made his way through like he usually does. I just had a real good race. It's such a short lap that you run into people, not literally, but you run into the same people over and over again, unfortunately. But everyone's getting better, very courteous. But it was a good fun race.
Yeah, it did look like a bit of a train out there. A lot of tight clusters of cars running close together, and Steve and I up here in the booth obviously keep an eye out for whenever you would run into that traffic, obviously, because it bunches you up. And from the booth, it looks like there's just a very small handful of places where you can make a pass, safely, for sure. We were watching Darren taking it extra easy there the last couple of minutes of the race to make sure he brought that Mercedes AMG P1 on top of the podium. Ian, how was your drive this evening?
Very frustrating.
Kind of got that impression from up here. Yeah, you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it was a very good start. I mean, I jumped Reed on the start and led it. I think I bumped that out to a little over half a second at one point and just couldn't hold on to it. The track itself really frustrates me in general. It's a lot better finish than the last time we were here, where we finished the race. The lap traffic just came up very fast, and communication was difficult at times because it happened so quickly that you're running into other people talking on the radio when you talk, and there's no room to say anything. So very frustrating race, but happy with finishing third. It is what it is, and we'll move on to the Glen.
And we'll pull up the points here before we wrap up for the evening so we can see where the championship standings are. Hey, Steve, so what any observations or questions you'd like to ask our race winners this evening?
I think you all did great. Like I said, I was a little surprised that Darren was able to pull out the win, just based on the qualifying and the practice pace. It didn't seem the pace that he's had all season. And then, I mean, Dave getting second was great. He had a major save. I think it was about midway through the race. Got together with somebody in the uphill. Thought for sure he was dead, but saved it.
Code Brown. Code Brown.
Yeah. Then Ian and Stefan both had some issues, but they both recovered nicely. So, I mean, the fastest car still finished at the front, except for Reed, who really got the short end. But it was a great race. I was expecting it to be kind of ugly just because of the nature of the track and, having the past cars, and there's just not a lot of great spots. But it ended up being awesome for everyone, I thought.
Yeah,
Can I ask what happened to Reed?
I can explain what happened to Reed, since it involved me.
The floor's yours.
Well, he went off. I dropped a couple of tires off right before going under the bridge on the downhill, and I came up on the inside of him, and we were going through the last turn. I actually was just watching the replay, and I saved it. And I thought I slid into him and bumped him off, but from what I can tell from the replay, it looks like he kind of turned into the back of me on the back left corner, and it pushed him off the track.
Now that you mentioned that, I do recall that because you were passing me, or you just passed me, and I was right behind you. I just didn't know what happened to him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened to him after that, but that's what happened initially. But I had a rough qualifying, so it was very, very challenging to get a clean lap, and every time I was on a good run, somebody kind of slowed me down a little bit. So
Fluffed it.
yeah, fluffed it. Exactly,
Yeah.
fluffed it. Yeah.
We actually noticed you were setting faster times in the race than you did in qualifying.
Yeah, you know what? It's the strangest thing. I had a qualifying setup, low gas, but I could turn a faster time with a full tank of gas. It was really strange.
That's not fair.
I mean, it's probably good for going up the uphill where you do catch a little bit of air, so keeps the car a little bit more settled.
Yeah, I mean, the Mercedes is a bit of a challenge to drive, whatever they've done to it. It's a little loose, and I'm just trying to get used to that. And actually, through the whole race, I mean, you could, for the most part, you could get it to turn just because the rear end was kind of loose.
That helps a lot here.
Yeah, no, it does. You have to be a little careful at the beginning for the first few laps for sure, because it'll come right around and you won't even be able to save it. But once you get through that, it's not too bad.
Yeah, that's really what happened to me. Is I picked a setup that I knew would be good in the last half of the race, but I was going to struggle in the first couple of laps, and I surely did. But like I say, I really enjoy it here. I don't think this track is as hard to deal with lap traffic as everyone else seems to. Because of the short nature of the track, you hit the front straightaway every 50 seconds.
Right.
And you can usually take care of lap traffic there, if nowhere else. So I actually like it for lap traffic.
Yeah, it just seems like it's tough because you hit it so much, obviously being in a 50-second lap. But
Yeah.
Yeah, here in the broadcast booth, we have a NASCAR crawler at the top of the screen to show everybody's current lap times, fastest lap times. And these laps are so quick here, there's not enough time for the crawler to make it all the way through the field before it, completes its business. I tried to speed it up. That didn't work, so we stuck with the timing tower. But yeah, Steve and I were sitting here just watching some outstanding, working through the field, and I think maybe it was Dave's point or Ian's point, further down the pack, everybody's for the most part navigating well, handling that, the leaders coming through more cleanly. But it did make for some pretty touch and go moments. And Dave, Steve, and I were both up here. We watched your Code Brown at least once. Because that could have gone much poorer than it did. So kudos to you for the initial recovery and then for bringing it back onto the track gingerly.
Thank you. It was pretty hairy, let me tell you.
For sure. It's about 20 after 10 here, and we'll start to cut you guys loose. You can head back to the pub and bend an elbow with everybody else in the race. Any closing thoughts from our race winners here this evening?
No, I'm glad that race is over. I have to be honest with you. That was
looked like a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
That's the first thing I said when we got the white flag.
Yeah, you're supposed to say white flag, not thank goodness the race is almost over.
Well, I mean, that's just what I was thinking.
Hey, I was just happy I finished with like 2 gallons worth of gas in the car.
I mean, I would have hoped you would have put like 19 gallons in it again, but that would have been nice. You still probably would have won the race, actually, with the gap you had.
No.
Dave was 10 seconds back, right?
Yeah, it depended on the traffic.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it fluctuated between 7 and 10 for the last 5 laps.
Yeah. Did obviously you made it through, Dave, with when Kurt, I gave you a little warning because he spun right in front of me. So
yeah, I saw his little blue nose sticking out of the left side of the track as I was going by. I was like, "Oh, don't come out!"
He sat there for like a lap almost.
Yeah.
Well, good for him. Thank you.
It's unfortunate Reed Shanabrook couldn't join us here in the post race because he was. Steve and I both said during qualifying the pace he had was pretty outstanding, and he looked to maintain it in race trim as well. So probably expect more from Reed here in the upcoming race.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's been showing good form the last couple of races.
Definitely. And I know, Stefan, certainly kudos to you because that was an outstanding effort to drive all the way back up through. Certainly we were surprised to see it, lap one incident of that sort, but it did seem like you were having fun coming through. Glad you weren't swearing too loudly after that happened.
I was really enjoying it. I went 15th was where I came out of the pits at, so
excellent
it was
drive.
good fun.
Well, I got the championship standings up on the screen right now. I think they're mostly accurate. Darren is truly in the lead with 254 points, so just 2 ahead of Ian Ditson in second with 252. Stefan, you're in third with 234. Dave, I'm going to double check with the accounting firm who does timing and scoring, make sure that that's a true 163 points for you, because it certainly feels like after tonight's drive you did a whole lot better than that. But congratulations to you all this evening on an excellent race. You made it exciting for Steve and I up here in the booth and had a fun race to call.
Thanks.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks
for doing it.
Yep.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Me too.
Definitely. All right, gentlemen. Well, we're going to get ready to sign off here. If you want, you can head back over to the pub, and Steve and I will wrap things up here in the booth.
All right. Have a
Sounds
good night.
good. Have a good one.
Steve, thanks again for joining me up here. It was a good time, and it's always a pleasure having you up here, and I appreciate all the color commentary and insight you provide. It's a real pleasure doing these now, having somebody else to talk to.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a great race. Really had a great battle at the front there for the top 3 cars for quite a while. I think the race ended at a good point. Everybody got stretched out, and I think all the action was over.
And we're just going to take a quick look at the calendar for next week so we can see which our next event is coming up. Looks like I'm going to have to log in there real quick, so give me just a moment here while we pull up that calendar and I figure out where we're going next.
I think I remember somebody said last week it was Watkins Glen.
Oh. Well, that will be a pleasant... Yep, that's it. The Champions Grand Prix, Watkins Glen, New York, is where we'll be headed next week. I believe I'm going to be racing next week, Steve, so you may be joined by Mr. Karamanis up here in the booth, unless I can convince my father, who's probably still at home watching this stream, to get into the car and go racing for the first time. But certainly looking forward to Watkins Glen. It's a many-storied track. Lots of history there, so that should be a good one. And
I feel like it can't be much different than this week. I mean, it's like total opposite type of track. It's going to be fast. There's banking in the corners. It's just, there's room to pass, first of all. Most importantly, totally different than what we saw today.
Definitely. I mean, it's still a bit congested given all the Armco and the fencing there. But, to your point, it's going to be a totally different race. Certainly an exciting one. So I'm looking forward to it, whether I'm up here or out on track. Should be a good time. So, Steve, again, I appreciate you joining me up here in the booth, broadcasting with us once again with the Vintage Racer Group Virtual Racing League.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Definitely, sir. Have a good rest of your evening, and we'll catch up with you here next week. We'll be headed to Watkins Glen, and we'll talk to you then.
All right, good night.
Good night, Steve. Thank you, sir. All right, and that'll do it for the VRG Virtual Racing League. Tonight's race coming at you from Lime Rock Park for the Connecticut Grand Prix. We'll be headed to Watkins Glen International next week. We hope you'll join us on YouTube, Facebook, or wherever you may be watching from. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, share with your friends, and invite everybody else to come out and watch some exciting virtual racing here. And we will see you next week here at Watkins Glen, New York. Pull up the graphics here and we'll cut out here. And this is Ian Wisdom with the VRG Virtual Racing League signing off. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Watkins Glen starting at 8 p.m. for an hour of practice, 20 minutes of qualifying, and a 40-minute race session.